In this tutorial, I will show you the best way to get started in Valheim. This tutorial is best suited for those who want to get through the game without dying or dying as little as possible, and for those who are complete beginners of the game. Even if you are a seasoned player, there may be tips in this video that will help you too. So get comfy and let's dive in. If you haven't already, you'll need to make a character. You can use the sliders and arrow keys on the menu on the left hand side to customize your character however you want. You'll also need to give your character a name, and for the purpose of this video, I call this character How Creative. Once you're happy with your character, press the Done button. To use this character, press the Start button. Now we need a world. To make a world, press New and use the name box to call it whatever you'd like. The seed box can also be changed. There are plenty of resources online that showcase different seeds, but personally I like to play not knowing what the map looks like, so I won't change it. Once you've landed in Valheim, it's best to talk to Hugin first. Hugin will be the one to guide you through the game. Whenever you make progress in the game, Hugin will appear and tell you all about it. Hugin can get a little tiresome if you're playing on multiple worlds, but there is a mod that you can use that will switch him off. I will leave a link in the description. Once you have spoken to Hugin, you should register the Vegvisir, so you will know the location of the first boss, Eikthyr. As you can see on the map, Eikthyr isn't too far away from where we are right now. It's good practice to stay fairly close to the location at Eikthyr, so that when it comes time to battle, you don't have to travel very far to get there. Before we leave the starting area, we will want to take a look around the back of the boss stones to find some food. Sometimes you'll get lucky and find two different types of food. To eat your food, open up your inventory by using the tab button on your keyboard and right click on the item. As you can see, different food items have different coloured forks next to them. This signifies whether they would give more health, more stamina, or equal measures of both. The mushroom has a silver fork, as its health and stamina gains are equal, whereas the raspberry has a gold fork, to signify that it gives better stamina than health. As you progress through the game, these levels will become more important, but for now, our main food goal is to be able to eat 3 different foods at a time, but more on that later. As our Eikthyr summon area is so close to the starting stones, why not visit it? In order to fight Eikthyr, you will need to sacrifice 2 deer trophies that you get from killing deer, meaning that you can fight this boss pretty early on in the game. If you'd like to see a tutorial video on how to best prepare for and fight Eikthyr, let me know down in the comments. We now need to start collecting resources. The ones we have available right now are wood and stone. These will be vital for nearly everything you make and build in early game, so make sure you get as much of these as possible. As we can't chop down trees yet, we have to start collecting wood by picking up pieces from the floor. Alternatively, you can also punch these sapling trees to get wood. To punch, make sure you haven't got any items equipped and just press the left mouse button. Once I have the resources, personally I like making a hammer first, as it means we can then build a campfire, which can be used for a resting bonus, more on that later, and be able to cook food, as well as giving us the option to make a workbench. If you want to feel safer against enemies, then I would suggest going for either a club or an axe first, but whichever way around you build them, these will be the first few things that you make. You can get the menu up to make them by pressing the tab button on your keyboard. Looks like we have our first enemy to fight. These guys are fairly easy to kill with your fists. Just use the left mouse button to give them a few whacks. You can use the right mouse button key to block attacks. If you time your blocks correctly, you can parry the enemy and stagger it, meaning that any subsequent hits will do more damage. As you can see, I've leveled up in fists. It sounds funnier than what it is. As you use your skills, you will level up in them. If you die in game, you will lose 5% of all your skills, so staying alive as much as possible is pretty important. You may have also noticed I also picked up a new item, resin. Resin has many different uses in the game, so keep a hold of that for now if you come across any. Next, I'm going to make an axe. This will make our wood collection a lot faster. Chop up the logs that are already on the ground, or the big old tree stumps you find scattered in the world. You still get a decent amount of wood out of them, but it saves you going through the time of chopping down a tree first. You will eventually have to chop down trees, but if I am in need of wood, I usually go and chop these things down first. This club will make short work of this grayling. The club, along with all the other tools, can be upgraded. They'll become more durable and put out more damage, but more on that later. Oh look, I found another Eichthea summoning site. Each of the bosses have multiple summon locations, of which will be more convenient to you than others. If you come across any boss sites, it's usually a good idea to mark them on the map. To get to your map, press M on your keyboard. Then, click on one of the icons on the right hand side. Double click where you want to mark on the map, and then you can name it whatever you like. Once you've named it, press enter on your keyboard and press M again to exit from the map screen. Apart from marking bosses on your map, it's a good idea to mark off any resources so they're easier to find in the future. Food sources, flowers, and even places of interest are a good thing to mark on your map. As with any survival game, having a base is vital, so let's go find one for us. You can either build yourself a little shelter, or you can repurpose one of the many small buildings you will find scattered in the meadows. It is a good idea to survey the area around where you plan to set up a base. It is good practice to at least be near the sea for later parts of the game, not too far away from the Black Forest, which is the next biome you'll be venturing into, and being close to a boar stone is also advantageous. More on that later. For the purpose of this tutorial, I'm just going to repurpose this building. It's fairly close to the sea, which will be helpful for us when we go out sailing. So firstly, we need to repair what's already here. To do that, we need to place a workbench, which costs 10 wood. You build this by selecting the hammer from your inventory, clicking on it, and then using the right click of your mouse to bring up the build menu. From here, you'll have lots of options of things to build, but most of them we won't be able to build until we have a workbench first. So let's set it down. Once it's set down, we will get flooded with many different build pieces that we can use, but more on that later. For now, let's just use the hammer's repair function. To do this, click on the repair button and then left click on all the pieces on the building that are damaged. The yellow bar indicates how damaged each piece is. The lower the bar, the more damaged the piece is. If the piece is reduced to 0, the piece will disintegrate. I need more wood to finish fixing up this build, so let's go chop down some trees. You need to be careful as you chop down the trees, as they can fall on you and kill you, so make sure to stand out of the way when they fall. In order for the workbench to function properly, it needs a roof, so before we build anything else of this build, let's make sure it has one. Go into the same build menu as before and select a roof piece. The workbench is what is used to upgrade and repair our basic tools, so a roof over the workbench is a step you should take early on in game. So we have almost finished our build. If you'd like to see a tutorial on this channel of how to build the ultimate starter home from scratch, drop a like and leave a comment down below. So, it's nighttime. Being out at nighttime makes us cold, which reduces how quickly our stamina regenerates, so our next steps is to build a bed and a fire. In order to sleep, we have to have a lit fire close by, so if you want to skip the night, you will need both of these items. Like the workbench, the bed also needs a roof, and the fire needs to be partially covered so that it does not get put out in the rain. One of the best ways to do this is by building a small extension to the house and placing a large roof piece at an angle over the top. This will allow for smoke ventilation so you won't suffocate or snuff out the fire, but it'll also keep the rain from putting it out as well. You can add whatever build pieces you like to make it look nicer. You can also hold down the shift key to place build pieces freely without them snapping to another piece. Once you are done, you can build a fire in the gap you've made and you're good to go. You'll need to keep feeding the fire wood in order for it to stay lit, so make sure you always keep some spare wood handy. Next, build a bed from the build menu. Hugin likes to make sure that they are the first ones to use the bed. Ensure that you claim the bed so that if you do die before you go to sleep, you will respawn at your bed. Make sure to redo this if you ever move your bed. Now your inventory is going to get quite full, so you'll start needing some storage solutions. This is where chests come in. They require 10 wood each. You can either build them this way, or this way if you are short on space and you want to get as much storage as possible. If you wanted to go wild with storage, you could even build some of these smaller floor tiles on top of your chests and place more chests on top. There really is no hard and fast rule of how to store your items, so you can be as creative as you want. To make things easier when you're filling up the chests, you can hold down the shift key while clicking on the item to split the stack when you don't want to store the whole stack. You can also hold down the control key when selecting items, which will automatically put the items in the chests without clicking and dragging. All that wood cutting has broken my axe. To fix it, press E on the workbench and press this flashing icon on the side of the build menu to automatically fix your items. The workbench is where you'll build most of your items for now, so let's go out and gather some materials so we can make some new tools and armour. Using a torch at night can help you spot things you may not have noticed otherwise, like these stones for instance. If you are ever short on stones in early game, look for exposed hilly land as it will usually have a lot of stones on it. We've just found ourselves some flint. It can be used to make better equipment and is also a material used to build upgrades for our workbench, but more on that later. You can usually find flint along the seashore. Aha! A boar! Boar provides us with food and materials, so it's a good idea to try and find a good source of boars. Speaking of, building a boar farm is always a good idea. It isn't a necessity to have, but it can make early game and beyond a little less tedious if you have one. So let's make one. You always want to build your boar farm close to your base, and we've been incredibly lucky to have a boar stone very near to our base. Lots of boars spawn around these particular stones, so they're an ideal place to set up a farm. You can sometimes find 1 or 2 starred boars, which are the best ones to have on your boar farm, as they will produce 1 or 2 star baby boars respectively, which give you more resources when killed than a no-star boar. You will know a starred mob, as there will be a small star next to their health bar. Be aware, not all of the stones like the one I just showed you are boar stones. These stones give little parts of the story of the land, so if you find one, you should read it to learn some of the lore of Valheim. Start by taking these round pole fences and build them into an enclosure. Use between 10 to 15 fences, that should be enough, but you can make it as big as you like. Then add a door, so that you can close it behind you once you have led the boars into it. Go over to the boars to aggro them, and then just make your way over to the enclosure, making sure that the boar is still following you. Once it's in the enclosure, quickly run out, closing the door behind you, and then just repeat the whole process over again once more so that you have 2 boars. This process can be a little bit fiddly, and there are other ways of trapping them, but this is just the way I like to do it. Just make sure you've eaten plenty of food so they don't kill you while they attack you. Once they're both in the enclosure, you can throw in some food so that they tame. Unsurprisingly, they won't eat boar meat, so raspberries or mushrooms is fine. To drop in food, left click the item and you will automatically drop it. You may need a few tries to get it over the fence. These boars won't tame when they're startled, which is indicated by the exclamation mark above their head. Back away from them for a few minutes while they calm down and then sneak back over to them. To sneak, press the shift key. Keep a close eye on your stamina though, as when it depletes, you will automatically stand up and you could spook whatever you were trying to sneak around. Taming boars is a great way to level up your sneak skill. Boars take roughly 30 to 40 minutes to tame fully, so you may not want to spend your whole time sneaking around them, but you can still be quite far away from them and they will still tame. You will know if your boars are taming by the hearts that rise from them. You can check how tame your boars are by hovering over them. These 2 are 29% tame. Once your boars are fully tamed, if you are close by, you will get a message to say so. Once both of your boars are tamed, whenever they eat food, after around 5 minutes or so, a baby boar or piggy will appear. Make sure to pet the boars. No reason, they just like it. Also, if you plan to use these boars as a food source, either don't name them or you will get attached, or name them the same name as your evil nemesis. Either or. Now we either have a good source of boar skin or you've hunted a lot of boar, the next piece of equipment we should make is a bow and some arrows. The bow and arrow is very helpful in taking down deer. Deer behave differently to boars in that when they are startled, they will run away rather than towards you. This means that taking them on in close combat can be very difficult. With practice, you'll be able to sneak up on them and use melee weapons, but hunting a deer with a bow and arrow is good practice for when you will need your bow and arrow skill to be leveled up for later on in the game. Speaking of levels, if you want to check how you are leveling up, just go into the tab button menu and select the triangle symbol. You can see your level for each skill, which is indicated by the gold bar, and how long you have left until you level up, indicated by the red bar. You can also find your compendium, the trophies you've collected, and how to turn PvP on and off from this menu. For more shooting practice, you should head out when it's raining and take out some birds. The birds land more often in the rain and are less likely to fly away than if you tried to hunt them on a clear day. They provide you with feathers, which can be a key material for making better arrows throughout the game. You can also collect feathers from chopping down trees, but they do drop infrequently. As you gather more and more materials, it is a good idea to level up your workbench. Doing this means that you will unlock new things to make and build, as well as giving you the ability to upgrade your previously made items. I want to build this chopping block to raise my workbench level from 1 to 2, but there's little space to put it, so you can build it up here. As long as the golden trail reaches from the improvement to the workbench, you're good to go. It's a good thing we went hunting all those deer, as it now means we can make ourselves a better set of armour. Leather armour. You can craft these in the same way you've crafted everything else on your workbench, and then to equip them, you just right click on them from your inventory. Whilst talking about our inventory, these hotkeys at the top of your screen correspond to the numbers on your keyboard. It is good practice to keep certain items in certain places. This is so you can quickly swap between your weapons and tools as and when you need them, simply just by pressing the corresponding number on your keyboard. In order to upgrade anything you have previously made, click on the Upgrade tab on the Build menu to see everything you can upgrade with your current workbench level. Be aware that if you upgrade any armor pieces, then they will need to be re-equipped. Don't go running around naked. As well as upgrading your workbench, tools and armor, you should also upgrade your house. Making things such as the deer rug will increase your comfort rating, meaning that when you get a rested bonus, which is either achieved by sleeping or being around a fire, the higher your comfort rating will be. A resting bonus means your stamina regenerates faster, so it is a good idea to keep your resting bonus as much as possible. Remember that resin we gathered earlier? We can use it to build torches. Just remember that they need topping up with resin every so often, so don't build more than you need. Okay, let's talk cooked food. There are 3 kinds of meats that you can cook from the meadows: boar, deer and necktail. I've not covered the necktails, as they're pretty simple creatures and you just need to give them a whack to kill them. In order to cook these meats, you'll need a cooking station, which you can find from a hammer build menu. You can build up to 8 of these racks over the fire, but I like to just go with 2. To use them, simply have the raw meat in your inventory and press E on the cooking racks. Make sure to keep a close eye on your cooking. They can overcook and turn into coal, but this has other uses. If your food ends up burnt, you can use coal to make signs. Signs are a great way for organising your chests, or if you're playing with others, to leave messages for one another. When placing a sign, make sure that the 3 dots are visible, as this is where the words will appear. Now you're all set up, if you haven't already, let's head out and do some exploring. It's a good idea to fill in as much as the map as possible, rather than picking a direction and walking in a straight line. You could be missing out on something good that is super close to your base. Make sure to check inside any buildings you find in the meadows. They'll sometimes have chests inside and usually have good loot. Whilst chopping down trees, you may come across some trees that are too hard to cut down yet. It's a good idea to mark these on the map, as they'll make it easier to find them when you do have the ability to use them. You may also come across these stone arrangements. These can sometimes contain bone fragments, which are used in the upgrading of some items, and other precious materials that are used later on in the game, so make sure to search them thoroughly. We have been lucky enough to find some bees. Bees are very important in the game as they provide honey, which is good for eating now and is also an ingredient needed for cooking later on in the game. The best way to get bees is to use a bow and arrow and not to get too close, as they will sting you. Make sure to wait until the bees disperse for a few seconds and then retrieve the queen bee to go build yourself a beehive near your base. If you want an easy way to locate your base after being out exploring, head to your map and click the scroll wheel on your mouse button. You'll get pinged the direction you need to take. So, now we are back home, let's build a beehive. Use your hammer build menu, find where the beehive is, and set it down. Be aware, the bees are fussy, so you'll need to ensure that they are happy for them to produce honey. Don't worry if you need to rebuild them elsewhere, just get the hammer tool and click the scroll wheel to destroy the beehive. As with any build item you destroy, you will get all of your materials back, so there's no stress of losing anything. Thank you so much for watching to the end of the video. This has been my most ambitious project yet on this channel, so I hope you enjoyed and I hope it helped you out. If there are any tips for starting out you think I missed out, please drop them in the comments. As always, thank you to my patrons. You are amazing. If you'd like to see more tutorial videos in the future, let me know in the comments and hit that subscribe button so you don't miss any. If you want to watch my last tutorial video on sailing, then I will leave the video on screen. And as always guys, have a wonderful rest of your day, whatever you get up to, and I will see you all in the next one. Bye!